Hey, this is Jonathan from SyniteAudio, and today I wanted to show, well, more or less explore this 4-block challenge that I took part in back in March. I will have the link to the Reaktor forum post in the description. But anyways, so I was just going back through some of my old block patches, and I found the 4-block challenge submissions that I had. So I have 4 of them, and each one of them has their own characteristics as well as their sort of end goal, and there's patches for all of them as well. So we're just going to go through that, and I will have the link for my 4 blocks downloadable in the description as well. So starting off, we have the 4-block drone. So this is a pretty cool drone. All of these, or almost all of these, need the clock running except for the synth and the FM feedback. So let's hear this drone. So essentially the concept for this whole patch is, instead of using traditional inputs on the filter, I actually just have the utility clock creating a pulse going from 0 to 1, and I'm using that as the input to the filter, so that's what the pinging is for. So I'm constantly pinging the filter and the envelope at the same time. If we move some of this stuff around, you'll see that I am taking the pitch input for the Monarch filter. The pitch input is coming from the reset of the clock, which is taking every 16 steps. I got the ADS envelope, which is getting its gate from the utility clock, and the input to the Monarch filter is also taking the input from the gate output of the utility clock. This is interesting. So when the reset goes high, or goes to a value of 1 every 16 steps, essentially what it does is, well, in blocks format, Reaktor blocks format, with a pitch value of 0, actually for pitch it goes from 0 to 1, so that creates the whole range. It's 0.1 per octave, so it momentarily swings the filter completely open with, if I have key tracking on. For this one I don't have any key tracking. Then we have the output of the filter going into the rounds delay left-right. The gate of the utility clock is going into the gate input of the rounds delay, so it's clocking it at the speed that we're running the clock at. So everything's nice and synchroned. Next we have the output of the rounds delay going, the left output is going into the FM input of the Monarch filter, so right there we're creating a feedback loop, and the right output is going to the ADS envelope mod A input, so we can get audio rate modulations. The ADS output is going to mod A of the rounds delay and mod A of the Monarch filter. Alright, let's go check another patch. So this is pretty cool. You can also obviously modulate some of this stuff, you know. So the output of that is the rounds delay itself. So that filtering we get out of that is essentially the output post filter, so to speak. Moving on. This is kind of like the last patch, except oh, it was with more feedback for lower end, and then of course you can still bring up the decay to get that crazy guitar-ish sort of scream. Oh, here I'm using the shuffle on the utility clock to get, well, in this case this one's called shuffle drum, but it's sort of like a moving beat out of it. And that high-end burst comes from the reset. Like I said, the reset output is going to the pitch input of the Monarch filter. So it causes that instant burst where it completely opens the filter, since I have key tracking set to, I believe it's 1/3. Yeah, that's 1/3 key tracking. Alright, moving on. And of course, you can always just turn this off. So now we got sort of like this nice drone, which can be cool. Ooh, this is a fun one. This is one that uses, well, all the ones that we were using before, there were higher delay times, or rather lower delay times, so the repetitions were much, much quicker. This is using a quarter note delay time. And I'm using that reset to get that blip. Oh, and I actually have this in bandpass mode with 2/3 key tracking, which is interesting. Normally I have the 1/3 or otherwise, and usually in the the mini Moog filter mode, which is a 24 dB cutoff. This is a bandpass. Yeah, that bandpass is really cool. Yeah, this filter's awesome. All right, moving on. Oh, nice. This is very much like a, it's supposed to be like an alarm. I remember this one. Oh, that's so weird. It's playing with that feedback there. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, we're really turning this patch on its head. Moving on. Oh, I love this one. Yeah, this is great for, well, as the name suggests, substation pulses. I was theming a lot of this around sort of sci-fi vibes with influences, and this one's a really great low-end generator. It's not too thumpy. It's more of like a, even though it says it's like a pulse, I mean, it is like a pulsing sound. It pulsates, but it's more of an oscillation. It sweeps in, goes out. This one's a good one. Oh, not too much delay on this one. Let's open the filter a little bit. Nice. Alright, moving on. Oh, this is a cool one, yeah. This, well, as the name suggests, TikTok, Mr. Spock. I was, I made all the names after the patch was created. This goes in, but this one's cool. I like the warped clock sound out of it. It's really, really fun. Let's do a key tracking, see if that opens up the filter. Oh, interesting. I actually kind of like that a little bit more. Feels like it has a bit more impact. It's got that blur. Such a cool sound. Moving on. Oh, this is exemplifying the attack, more of the attack portion of the ADS envelopes is getting that sweeping sort of vibe out of it. Whoop, 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 whoop. Very sort of bubbly sounding, which is nice. Yeah, this is a cool, simple patch, man. 4 blocks. The clock, ADS envelope, Monarch filter, and rounds delay, and you're getting some really cool stuff. Sometimes you don't need some complex stuff, you know? Alright, moving on. Oh yeah, this is a nice, like, almost helicopter-ish repeating patch. Whoa. I forgot how much low end was on this one. Full FM, full feedback, full load. Yeah, this is really driving the filter. Interesting. Alright, moving on. Ooh, set phasers to massage. I actually really like this one. This is the last patch that I have for this one. Most of them are usually 10 patches. This one's 12 because I really liked playing with the drone. I like this one though. Kind of massages my ears a little bit, that's why I have the name set to such a interesting title. Alrighty, well that was the 4-block drone. Oh, sorry, feedback. So let's go into the 4-block drums. Moving on. Okay. Right. I forgot I was using the XYS on this one. So this is cool. So I have a quick run through. We got the utility clock, which is running the gate into the X and Y inputs of the XYS. And we're taking the outputs of the XYS here. We've got the output is going to our mod B, interestingly enough, mod B of the kick and mod A of the snare. We've got gate X going to the kick gate inputs. Okay, so every time the X gets a trigger, which is coming from here, X gate, every time this triggers, we're getting a kick coming out. And every time the Y triggers, we're getting the snare. So that's the Y gate. And then the out logic is going to mod A of the kick. Interesting. And so that's 4 blocks. We've got... and then we have an addition module. I don't count the... I think the primary modules were counted as counting to the total in the challenge. And anyways, I just use this for an addition because it's basically like using a mixer, but there was no point using a mixer in this context. I just wanted to add the kick and the snare. And so let's go to patch 1. And let's see what this sounds like. Oh yeah, these are set to random direction. I think I have some patches where they are constantly repeating, but for the most part, I love playing with the randomized direction. The XYS is great. It's a really good sequencing block on its own if you really know how to drive it. So the white values here, whenever the knob is white, is because we have an X gate and a Y gate at the same time. If not, it'll be a blue knob for the X gate and a red knob for the Y gate. And if there's no gate, it's just gray. So remember the output values. So the output of the knob itself, that value step, that's when it goes to the mod values. really. I forgot what I do with these. Might be. Oh, that was decreasing the K time, and that was increasing the K time on the snare. So I sort of did an inverse function on, well, not function, but I set it up inversely. So when the snare has a long decay, the kick will have a shorter decay. Well, in this case, because we're just taking these output values. Moving on. 50-50. Oh, this is a fun one. Okay, so as you can see that from the somewhat interesting colors, rather, I have it set so that it goes halfway on the X and halfway on the Y, and so that crossover in the middle is what creates the white. For the most part, this sort of, I guess, sounds the same. The Niji drum pack, that drum blocks that Native Instruments gave out, they're really good. There's a lot of ensembles built around them. Someone built a whole drum machine with just these guys. Okay, moving on. Okay, so this one's actually sequenced. It's just constantly going in the same order. Yeah, you can do some really cool stuff with the XYS. I keep stressing it, but it's true, man. It's true. Okay, so I've got my. So in this case, I'm running it's going. It's kind of hard to explain, but we're running the XYS, and then up, and then move over, and then up fashion. So essentially, if you take this whole thing, and you flip it 90 degrees clockwise, then we're getting the kicks every 4 steps, and then I've got my snare running down the line. So it's like kick, snare line, kick, snare line. But in this case, it's going vertically. So every horizontal step, every 4 steps, we get our kick drum, boom, 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 and then our snare on every other lane. So it goes boom, boom, ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, boom, boom, ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. And we've got the snare also triggering at the same time. I've got it set here so that this value coming out here actually is, since it's lowering, it's a low value. This is actually the sort of that inverse that I was telling you about, is I have it set in this case for this patch. For when this value is low, what it does is we have the, actually it doesn't do anything to the kick, but it does actually increase the snare time. So for this specific step here, we have a regular kick, but since it's set to low, we've got a very short snare time. So that's how you can get your scattered or sort of not really velocity set, but like lengthened snares for a rhythmic feel. I'll play this one more time before moving to the next snapshot. Yeah, this is pretty cool, man. Alrighty. Oh, I love this one. So here we have a randomized, it's going randomly on the X position, but it is constantly moving up and down. So we have, as we have here, it's set to a sort of pendulum. Is that ping pong actually? Oh, that's ping pong. This is pendulum. Yeah, so it just moves, and then the minute it hits one edge, it comes right back down. And I've got the snare set to no snap. This is with snap. So it's essentially kind of running like a tom or like a little wood block, or it just creates a tone, which is pretty cool. I like this one. A little bit of saturation on the kick there. All right, moving on. Same concept as before for the last patch with the snap all the way down. So we've got that nice tone running, and this is actually a repeatable sequenced patch. So here we're running Y, so Y is going up, and then X is going right. So we're getting our very simple reading. Next patch. Oh, this one's kick only, we've got set to pendulum, or rather ping pong, rather. So the difference between pendulum and ping pong is that pendulum, once it reaches the end, it, for example, if it goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it won't repeat the last step. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ping pong, which is also the same thing on the bento box 8 steps, is it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it repeats the last and first when it switches sort of direction. This is a fun one. Yeah, this is kick only. And this is really trying to exemplify, actually I was really using this one as a sort of concept for like getting different sounds out of just one module. So here I'm getting that sort of kick drum, which is just constant tone out of it, but I'm also getting that like boop, 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 and I'm doing that with just the modulations, which is really cool. Next one. Oh, I love these. The BusyWorks. These are fun ones. Yeah, I've got 4 of these. 4 BusyWork patches. It's just really like sort of a lot of movement, a lot of stuff going on. This is a fun one. Here I've got it actually set to ping pong on the X direction, so it'll repeat the first and last steps as I've told you on the X, and then the Y is obviously random. Alright, moving on. I've got it set to random, and I've actually changed the direction to be a actually I don't think really the direction matters when you have it set to random. The actual the mode that it's in, zigzag, versus the one previous, which is this is just XY. Zigzag 1 to, oh yeah, I guess XY. Gates received at the gate X input advance the sequencer in the X direction, and gates received at the gate Y input advance the sequencer in the Y direction. Oh yeah, right, I forgot the XYS can do that. Okay, let's move that to that patch. Yeah, so essentially what you can do is you can, well, since it doesn't matter in this case because I'm actually gating the XYS, the X and Y at the same time, so it makes literally no difference. Essentially what the XY mode does is that it would actually be moving in a diagonal fashion, but I've got the direction set on the X, I think it's the X or the Y, either way, random, so it was actually picking random values along its lane, so to speak. Moving on. Ooh, BusyWork 3, I like this one, yeah. A bit more saturation. So I want to note that it's worth noting actually that, so what you can do is you can have either the X set to random or the Y set to random, but if you have one of the two directions set to move in a specific motion, so in this case Y is set to forward, what happens is every time you get a Y, or in this case we get the gates, so we start off on the first lane and we can randomly pick a value from that first lane. Then it goes to the second lane and randomly picks a value from that second lane. Since we have it set to forwards, it can only go in one direction, which is up. So what you can do with it, so what this allows us to do essentially is it repeats on the Y direction, but on the X direction we can have a set of random values that it can only, so only 4 random values that I can choose from on every step. So it gives us a controlled sort of randomization, so to speak, which is really cool. You can do some fun stuff with that, as this patch exemplifies. Finally, the last BusyWork. These are set to actually random, right? Yeah, it's not. Oh, they don't even have Brownian in this. Interesting. I'm used to the Brownian direction in the bento box 8 steps, where it can either move forward, move back, or just stay in the same position. Well, no, it is it's a move forward or move back, but when it's not actually random, it can be any value, so it can move 4 steps forward, 4 steps back. Should have put Brownian on here, would have been pretty cool. Alrighty, so that's the 4-block drums. Let's go into the FM feedback, and I'll talk about that one. Okay, really quickly, let me mute all of that. So the patch consists of 2 WG oscillators, and the scope is there just for viewing purposes. So we got 2 WG oscillators running into a bento box mix. Everything past this point, so the bento box mix and forward is all summing, and for running to the main outputs. The 2 WGs, this is purely a patch built on feedback, which is nice. Frequency modulation and just driving pitches and whatnot. So if we look at WG1, or oscillator 1 in this case, we'll see that the output of T is going to input 1, output of the C, so the total, or the timbre. Timbre output is going to input 1 of the bento box mix. The carrier, or C, is going to input 2. Oh, actually, no, it's going to input 3, rather, sorry. And then the mod output, the modulation output, is going to the FM for the carrier. So it's essentially like running this block, but also having the mod go into this carrier. And we're also going to have this mod go into this carrier. So if I look at the mod output, it goes into the FM for this carrier. The timbre output also goes as the main pitch control for the carrier of oscillator 2 if it's set to key tracking mode. And for 2, we have the total, or my bad, sorry, timbre output is going to pitch of the carrier and modulator of the DWG for oscillator 1. If we have it set to key tracking, then it'll look at the timbre output of 2 and say, what is the pitch that this is creating? Next, we have the modulator output, which is going to the of 2 going into the FM of 1's carrier, like we explored a little earlier. And for the inputs of the bento box mix, we have the timbre of 1 going to 1, the timbre of 2 going to 2, the carrier of 1 going to 3, and the carrier of 2 going to 4. So essentially we have some cool stuff being explored here. So I actually have a decent number, 11 patches on this, and we explore. I'll show you before this patch, this whole blocks patch explores like a lot of chaos that can be caused from exploring with these this frequency modulation concept. All right, so the first one. So there's a lot of stuff to play with. It's like a big control center, and you're like trying to launch a rocket, and the guy's like, dude, press that button, and you're like, oh, which one? But anything you press here or move around will affect the sound in some way. I wired it up so that everything is really intertwined in terms of the sound production, which is fun. Getting pretty far from that initial patch there. Oh, right, we're using that. Interesting. Yeah, you can create a lot of really cool repeating sounds out of this. Next preset. Oh, phone gnome. Yeah. Like I said, in my drone blocks patch, I kind of make up the names after I have the sound, so that's inspired by This kind of sounds like a cellular phone or some sort of old landline phone. Some sort of connection that's trying to happen. This patch was so much fun. Moving on. It's like sort of strange because it's like random, but then your brain picks up on all of the small nuances and the repetitions, so it's not really random, but it's so cool. I don't know how to explain it. So cool. Yeah, essentially with all of these blocks patches, I was trying to explore different ways of patching blocks together. In this case, just using 4. I have the 2 WGs, bento box mix, and a scope. Instead of using an addition module, I actually wanted to use the scope, use the bento box mix because I wanted to have the various outputs, the timbre and carrier outputs of both DWGs to be present. But yeah, essentially I wanted to explore different ways of patching stuff that's not really done on a day-to-day basis, like having the clock be the pinging source for the drone blocks patch. In this case, running 2 DWGs as the sole sound engine is actually pretty cool. It really showcases the power that this block has. And here's an example of that. Predictable oscillations. This is a cool one. I just love using this patch to like make loops of like some sound effects or something. Alright, moving on to the next one. Oh, of course, predictable oscillations too. Yeah, it's kind of like the same one. It's just another patch where I have it set super stable with the controls where it repeats itself very nicely. Oh, and here is where we're going to start to get into very noisy territories. This is exploring the chaos that you can kind of create out of this thing. So there's Can You Hear Me Now? Total effing chaos. These two are quite something. So this is total effing chaos. Yeah, it can be quite overwhelming a bit. So I moved on real quick from that one. I figured you'd save your ears. This one's cool. It's called Whoa There. This is just using very simple slow LFOs, say 0.46 hertz, 0.31 hertz as frequency modulation sources. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, this is named sort of onomatopoeia of the sound. Moving on. Ooh, lightly digital snow. Yeah, I like this one. So there's two. There's the regular, and then there's the dark. This is the regular. This is the dark, where I was using the mixing Let's bring in more of the low-end stuff, so as you can see from the first one. If I just bring that down, it's the same patch. Well, close to the same patch. It's all done in the mixing, which is why I wanted to have this bento box mix, part of the 4 blocks. Finally, the last one, which is the first one. I don't know if it was heard or not, which is the warped arcade cabinet, and I really like this one. Bring up a little bit more of that high end in this case. A 3 is the carrier before the timbre. I really love this one. It sounds like some weird, like, asteroids meets, like, sort of centipede meets, like, Space Invaders. I don't know. It's a fun one. That's all I need to know. Yeah, so this is the FM feedback patch. Right, I almost forgot. Finally, we're going to look at the last one, which is the synth feedback patch. So before I play anything, because this isn't actually playable, whoa, yeah, this one has a utility note in. So this was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What? How is this possible? 5 blocks in a 4-block challenge? This is because it was later on in the challenge as my submission where I think it was like sort of strangely agreed that the utility blocks wouldn't count towards the total. I still think that's kind of cheating, but I rolled with it at the time, and so I just put the utility note in, and I figured, well, if I can have 5 blocks, then I can create a cool little filter or synthesizer out of it. So I have the utility note in, which is going its pitch output, which is going to the pitch in for the DWG. Once again, we're using this big guy. And for the carrier and the pitch, my bad, carrier and modulator. We're also taking the pitch output of that and going into the boutique dual SKF filter. And we're taking the gate output of the utility node in for the amp and mod A. So as the name suggests for that one, it's going for the mod A of bento box mix, which is actually, we're using that as an amplifier. So we're using this as a 4 VCA, so to speak. And we're also using the mod A of the DWG, which for this patch has nothing. And for mod A of the boutique dual SKF, which actually does have some movement applied to that. So let's go to the first one, click bass, which I think is being played in lower registers. Oh yeah, okay, that's fine. So you might notice, oh, well, where does the filter kind of fit in if the outputs are coming straight from the mix? Well, that's because, exactly, really. So what's going on here is we have the DWG, which is outputting the timbre, carrier, and the modulator, going into 1, 2, and 3 of the bento box mix. So 1, 2, and 3. And someone's calling for an ambulance. Okay. Hopefully no one's house is on fire. And so the output of the modulator then is going into the FM input of the dual SKF. Strange enough, it's actually not the input of the dual SKF. What the input of the dual SKF is the output of the bento box mix. So this is the, like the title suggests, synth feedback. So we're taking the output of 1, 2, and 3 of the bento box mix, feeding it into the input of the dual SKF. And then the dual SKF is outputting to input 4 of the bento box mix. Also, the output of the bento box mix is going to the FM input of the modulator, so this guy here. And the output of the dual SKF is going to the input of the carrier. So you can actually create some really complex stuff with essentially these 4 blocks. Not this one, not the utility node in, but these 4 blocks. So hence the click bass, which is actually 4 if I mute 4. You'll see that that's what's creating that sort of upper growl. So it appears here and also comes in somewhere, like we said, it goes into the carrier. So I kind of play off of that. I mean, the patches for this synth aren't Grammy award-winning, I guess, but maybe with some work. But it's more to just showcase the cool stuff you can do with this. Moving on, we have Wibbly. Oh, really? I thought it was Wobbly. Wibbly Pluck. So this is purely using the output of the dual SKF, or input 4 of the bento box mix, which is also feeding back into itself. Worth noting, so the SKF also feeds back into the SKF. And then that outputs to the left, right of the mains. So I think this one's purely driven, yeah, from the DWGs. No, actually, this one doesn't even use the DWG, because input 1, 2, and 3 aren't in action, so to speak. It's just the filter running into the filter with the resonance. Ooh. Kind of sparked my ears there. Moving on. Abused synthesizer. Oh, this is a fun one. So this can actually, I'm pretty, oh, it is deranged circuits. Okay, yeah. This one has a lot of sweet spots, if that's what I can say. Some notes create complete garbage, and then others will actually create really interesting, stable tones. Unless you're into, you know, that sound. If not, more low end. Ooh, it really screams. That's this filter, man. This filter is great. Dual SKF is the Salon Key filter based on the MS-20. So if you got this, you've got yourself a nice MS-20 filter. Moving on to the next preset. Ooh, Abused Synthesizer 2, of course. Okay, yeah, it does sound really. It's because I have some FM input. The FM's coming from the modulator, mind you, of the DWG. So yeah, if I play around with that, I have the FM. And the modulator set to I believe that's a multiplier. Oh yeah, it's ratio. It's set to a defined ratio. In this case, 16 times the incoming pitch. So it is all key tracked in some way. Jeez, that note really rings. We have key tracking also set to both, so it's set to full instead of half and full, and then none, full, none, full. It's full on both sides. Moving on. Oh, Abused Synthesizer 3. Oh, what was I doing on this one? So the difference between these two patches is slightly different controls and a sawtooth. Oh, actually, yeah, and we have a sawtooth on the... Oh, wow, that really changes the timbre. Oh, it's because, okay, so yeah, I forgot the Abused synthesizers have, so it comes in on 1, which is the timbre output, so the carrier does make a difference. And the filter itself, so it's going 1 and 4 output going into the filter and back out on 4, so you get that feedback there. almost a little guttural mouth sounds, so to speak, because of the sawtooth. Interesting. So moving on, we have the deranged circuits. This one can create sort of like nulls, so to speak. It'll just... Oh, there you go. It sort of just blanks itself. It's like a circuit board that just dies and then creates a constant, not a tone, but it's like just a constant value. It just goes completely stable. Oh, yeah, some of these notes don't even function. It's usually the low end ones that are all giving problems. A lot of sweet spots on this one too. I mainly wanted to make a patch that just broke everything. And that was this patch. Moving on, we've got... Oh, submarine texture. This is a fun one. And that's the whole patch. Obviously on higher notes, you get that really nice low end. Probably the most playable patch. I named it Submarine Texture because I think was I on the... Yeah, I think I was playing with the lower registers actually on this one. Probably this note. And to give this nice, like, it gave me a strange sort of like Hunt for Red October type of vibe. Yeah, I like this one. It's a good one. Next one, we have Bird Call. Okay, so this is using a ramp, or in this case sawtooth, but a really low ratio, which kind of creates a ramp, ramping sound, like a woot woot on the FM, which I label as Bird Call. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a one-trick pony on that one. Moving on, we have RNG. So somehow, I don't know how we did this. I think it's sort of from the patching itself using the FMs or something. But I will label this RNG as random number generation because it kind of creates randomized sounds. Actually, I don't even... Oh, the pitch doesn't matter on this one, huh? Oh yeah, it does, just a little bit. Yeah, I don't know how I created random choice on this. It's not the sync. What's on the carrier again? Filter. The modulator's FMing that, and I have full resonance on the low pass or high pass, which is creating low frequency at around 156 hertz, and full on the high or low pass, which is creating a very low Frequency of 0.08. Yeah, I don't know. Pretty lost, but I was dialing in some stuff, and you can see I have all 4 channels running, with the filter obviously running into itself, and I somehow just created this cool patch. So I was like, oh cool, I somehow created a completely random patch. Oh, might have something to do with this filter, actually. Oh, that was a cool sound. Let me bring the release. Kind of has like a strange like dying sound from the 8-bit eras. But yeah, that's the RNG patch. Moving on to the last one. Some noisy drum hat. Well, can't believe I'm leaving you guys with a really really bad drum sound. Oh well. Anyways, this has been the 4 blocks challenge, and I will have all of the description, yes, I will have all of the description, indeed, no, I'll have all the links in the description for, well, the link for the forum posting on the 4 block challenge, and the link for where you can get the 4 patches of my 4 blocks for the 4 block challenge for you. Anyways, no, I'm gonna zip it and throw it on like Mediafire or something, and then I'll put the link in the description, so that's where you can get all of that. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. I will be posting more. I say that in every video, but yes, I will be posting more content. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a really good day.